Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I want to talk about Armanz the Magnificent. He is the new fusion that we are going to be getting as part of the 5th anniversary, the Festival of Creation, whatever you want to call it. It is coming next week, I would imagine, based on the announcement. I think it's very imminent, and we are due a fusion. The Titan event is coming to an end. Now I wanted to wait a day before I put this video out there, just to gather my thoughts, because my initial reaction to this new champion announcement was, what are they thinking? And I always want to check myself to make sure that I'm not being overtly dramatic. Maybe I am, maybe I still am, but I do have some significant worries about this type of fusion and whether or not it's the right type of fusion that we should be getting. Now, from a player's perspective, from your decision-making point of view, obviously the big number one question people ask me all the time is, should I be going for this fusion? Is this a skippable fusion? Can I skip this fusion? That is the question that I get asked almost always. You know, what are your thoughts on the champion? Are you skipping it? You would be a fool if you play this game seriously to skip this champion. I think this fusion is probably the most overpowered fusion they've ever released in the game, in its existence. We're talking even including champions like Rotus. This champion is just obnoxiously powerful, and I really worry about the direction of where you go after this champion comes out. I'm going to explain why I'm saying this. There is logic behind my reasoning. I'm not just being dramatic for the sake of being dramatic. I will give you an explanation as to why. Now, from a visual point of view, this guy looks really cool. He looks a bit like Captain Jack Sparrow. He's got a little shadow text on him. I think they've just kind of like taken the model of Taras, given him a banjo, and made him look a bit more piratey, which is kind of cool. A barbarian legendary, support magic. So he probably won't do much damage. That's one good thing, at least. I mean, he's got all this utility. At least he's probably not going to be a nuker at the same time. But as a legendary magic as well, he's not void affinity. So you're going to have to keep in mind about weak hitting. So I'm going to go through the skills, and I'm going to really explain to you from two angles, because some people might think he's just a PvP champion, which is incorrect, and some people might realize he's actually much stronger than just PvP. So I'm going to give you both dungeons, bosses, waves, where he actually sits amongst the entire game that we have now in Raid Shadow Legends. And attacks one enemy A1 has a 55% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random active skill by 2 turns, and he will gain 10% for each turn added to the cooldown. So, for example, if I have an ability that's not on cooldown, I increase it by 2, then it's going to give me 20% turn meter fill. But if that ability is on full cooldown, or maybe it's on like 1 less turn cooldown, it obviously can't put it on a higher cooldown than the skill's maximum, so then I would only get 10% if I only move it by 1 turn, for example. The chances are, though, you're always going to get 20% turn meter fill if this applies. Now, you can't increase the odds of this with Sniper. Sniper only really works with debuffs. But at a 55% chance to basically do this, it's a bit like a reverse Ancora A1. It's very, very strong in PvP. In PvE, less so, but it's absolutely really good for something like Iragoth. Iragoth, you can actually put his abilities on cooldown. This is actually quite good for that, and he's going to get turn meter as well. Now, here is this greatest hits ability. This ability is probably, for wave-based content in a non-PvP setting, a non-arena setting, the most overpowered ability in the game, by far. He's going to attack all enemies. He's going to steal the turn meter of each target, 100% of the current turn meter of each target, except in the sheep. You're not going to be seeing much sheep in sort of PvE unless you use his A3 here, or unless you use Sun Wukong. So the chances are you're probably not going to be seeing sheep much. So that's pretty much a full, all enemies. Then he's going to stun them for 1 turn if they're not under sheep. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, what makes this OP is the steal aspect. If you have a wave of 5 enemies, pretty typical in PvE content, say like they're all on half turn meter, 50% turn meter. Well, he is going to steal 50% turn meter times 5, which is effectively 250% turn meter to himself. So that means he's guaranteed to get an extra turn with that amount of turn meter control. So we're not even like saying full turn meters on it, or 10% turn. Even if it's like 25% turn meter on everyone, that's still like 125% turn meter he's getting, which is near enough guaranteeing him an extra turn. So we might as well say with this, as long as there's 5 enemies up, you're guaranteed an extra turn. On a 3-turn cooldown, you also stun them for 1 turn. And if you take the Harvest Despair Mastery, you will put Leech. So now this ability also has Leech, because the likelihood is you're going to put 1 leech out so you can heal your team. And the way that this is going to work is I use greatest hits, I take all their turn meter, I stun them for 1 turn. I get an extra turn, then I can follow up with an A1, perhaps give myself a bit more turn meter. Maybe I want to turn someone into a sheep, potentially. I'd probably just A1 on normal PvE content. I probably wouldn't use this ability unless I wanted to get rid of all of the enemy's buffs. I then cycle back through. The enemies wake up from their stun turn. Still a bit of not a problem. I A1 again. Okay, cool. The enemies are about to take a turn, but because he's got so much turn meter from his A1, and generally you would run him fast, he's already back to his greatest hits again, and he's going to steal all their turn meter again and stun them again. There is no chance, if you build this champion correctly, that any wave in any PvE content ever takes a turn against Armanz the Magnificent. Ever. I'm fairly certain, I'm like 90% certain, if you exclude the boss waves and probably the Siphi, Rotus, or Mortu waves, or any wave where stun immunity is a problem, I'm pretty certain that this guy can solo the entirety of Doom Tower hard on his own with this one ability. Because no wave can ever take a turn. Exclude the bosses, exclude the ones where stun immunity is a problem, or exclude things that artificially give you a lot of turn meter, like Mortu Macabre. The more you hit him, the more you put him, you can boost his turn meter. Nobody will ever take a turn. It's way too strong. Like, how do you even balance the game after this greatest hits? Because any wave that you put in, if it's a Sintranos wave, not a problem. It could be the hardest, most complicated wave in the world. Unless the enemies are running at 300 speed, he is going to stop every single wave in his track, because it's not just a dropping of turn meter. He steals it, so it guarantees him an extra turn 9 times out of 10, and he stuns them, and he puts leech on them because of Harvest of Despair, so he's healing as well at the same time. There's just no world where this is going to be, like, it's great for a player. If you get this guy, you are not going to struggle with any waves. Those Doom Tower waves you may have struggled with, you're not going to anymore. It's just so powerful, this ability for PvE content. I've never seen anything like it in the game so far. I worry about it because of how strong it is. Now, this is also incredibly strong in Arena. If this guy gets a turn in Arena, when is your champion ever going to get a turn? Because not only when you're under Sheep, if you're under Sheep, you basically get 150 speed anyway, so you're going incredibly slow. If you're not under Sheep, you're never taking a turn because you're perma-stunned and your turn meter is stolen. Now, to be fair, the stun could trigger Polymorph. That's a possibility. So there is rules for that, and you can't turn meter control under Stone Skin. So there is some counters to it, but very much like Shujen and Arbiter, or if you've ever fought a team which is like Arbiter, Lysandra, and Siphi, it's very hard for you to get a turn. He's going to be doing that in a much more crazier fashion because of the other abilities as well. So the rest of his kit now is pretty much focused on Arena. I will say he's not very good at bosses. Iragoth is the exception. For a lot of bosses, things like Grithian, things like Agreth, you don't really want to be turn meter controlling. He's going to be very good for something like Dark Fae. Things like Dragon, you can't really turn meter control, so you can't really turn meter control things like Iragoth, but you can put his skills on cooldown. Things like Sand Devil, he's not going to be very good for because you can't really do anything. Things like Shogun as well. Those sorts of things are not very good. He's not a very good boss champion, but getting to the bosses, God tier. Controlling the waves, God tier. Faction Wars is going to be a joke with this guy. I mean, Barbarians are pretty easy with Scylla the Drakes. Generally, once you get Scylla the Drakes, but you can see my pattern here. If there is a wave, they will not take a turn. Now let's focus on Arena. The rest of his kit is very much focused on Arena. Sheep, Polymorph is very much an Arena feature. So for my next trick, it's a 3-turn cooldown. He's going to place a Sheep on you for 1 turn. Now what does Sheep do? It removes all your buffs, including Stone Skin. If this works like Sun Wukong, he will go through Stone Skin, so that Ultimate Death Knight won't be able to withstand this unless he resists. Puts your speed at 150. When you come out of Polymorph, you lose half your health. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. So the chances are this is going to be a permanent Sheep like Sun Wukong is if you use him fast, right? Sun Wukong's got 3 builds, either a full damage build, a hybrid build where you kind of like steal a few buffs but still do lots of damage, or a full debuff build where you go super fast, high accuracy, and Sheep and control the waves. Now, he also has a 100% chance when you book him of removing all buffs from all enemies, and he will give himself more turn meter for every buff removed. So if you're facing a Siphi might have 3 buffs on 4 enemies. That's 12 buffs. He's going to give himself 12 times 5% turn meter boost, which is 70% turn meter boost? It's just insanely fast. So not only are you getting a 3-turn cooldown, you're getting 70% turn meter boost, assuming he doesn't Sheep himself, of course. It'll be like a 20% chance per 6-star. So there's a chance he could polymorph himself. But if he doesn't, he's going to Sheep one enemy, which automatically removes 1 polymorph out of the window, right? If you have a 6-star Ultimate Death Knight polymorph, you Sheep the polymorph. As long as he himself doesn't get I don't think you can get polymorph from placing Sheep, but the buff removal can polymorph you, but you've taken one of the 20% away because you can't polymorph someone whilst you're under Sheep because you've lost that blessing. When you're in polymorph, you have different skill sets. You don't have your blessings, you don't have anything. So this makes him less risky from a polymorph perspective because one of the enemies is gone. So now it's only 3 enemies with polymorphs. There's 3 20% chances or 25 if they take fearsome presence. So there's still a chance he can polymorph himself, of course, but it's less chance. He's going to get insane turn meter control, steal all the buffs. And then this is where it gets out of control. Whenever a sheep debuff is removed or expires on an enemy, increases the cooldown of a random active skill to its maximum. Fills this champion's turn meter by 10% for each turn added to the cooldown, and obviously it will only work with him on the team. So let's take a Prince Kaimar. You polymorph the Prince Kaimar. The Prince Kaimar's A3, which resets all abilities, has a 6-turn cooldown. So when Prince Kaimar comes out of sheep, which is basically happening every 3rd or 2nd turn here, he's going to potentially lose that ability. If he does, it gives Armanz the Magnificent a 60% turn meter boost, which puts him back to his greatest hits, which steals all the turn meter, and then he goes back to his next tricks and put that Kaimar back into polymorph, and when that Kaimar comes back out, that polymorph will give him another like 30% because his A2 will go on cooldown. This is the problem that I have with his skill set. You are never taking a turn with an Armanz Sun Wukong Ultimate Death Knight combo. It doesn't even matter that he doesn't do any damage because it is just so much turn meter control and so much like polymorphing. He's basically Warlord with Sun Wukong. Warlord polymorph Sun Wukong. This is what you're facing. A champion that can remove all buffs, put your skills on cooldown, and put you into sheep form, and stun you, and steal all your turn meter permanently. I don't really know. I'm struggling with this to really see how this is balanced. It's not balanced. I like, this is the most craziest. If you don't go for this fusion, you play the game seriously, you are crazy. It's so powerful. It's more powerful than Newt. Because at least with Newt, he's more of a PvE monster. He has no impact in arena, in much essence. Things like Emic, for example, has a little bit of impact in arena, but there was always weaknesses to them. The only way you stop this guy is you ban him or you kill him first. If you don't ban him and you let him take a turn, you will probably lose to Armanz the Magnificent because you will never take a turn. Your team, the only way you can stop this is having 4 times Stone Skin, because he can't then polymorph every single one of you and kill him quickly with a block revive. Get him out of the way. It's the only way I can see it. If you let him take a turn, it's going to be a nightmare. And what we're going to see the arena meta move towards is less bolster, because we have White King Narcissus. At the moment, you can kind of ban White King Narcissus and keep your bolster sets. You're not going to be able to do that with this guy if you can't ban him. You're going to see more Stone Skin being picked. You're going to allow them to pick potentially the Narcissus and just tank it up and try and kill him very quickly. Or you're going to allow this guy through and still go with 4-turn Stone Skin and instead be able to stop his A2 and try and kill him very quickly, because if you let them take turns, you're never going to get, you're never going to get turns. It's completely opposite to what high-end arena players have been asking for. They've been asking for less polymorph. They've been asking for less slowdown mechanics. This guy is going to slow the arena down even further because he's not going to do any damage. He's just going to make it so nobody can take a turn, because it's just ridiculously, I don't know. It's basically what we're going to see is right now, Gold 1, for example, we're going to see, you basically find Sun Wukong, Ultimate Death Knight with Arbiter as like a starting point. Sometimes the Arbiter's a Siphi Rotus, sometimes it's White King Narcissus and Korra, but every single fight pretty much has Sun Wukong and Ultimate Death Knight. This guy's going to go in that pack, because now you can't ban out the polymorph. At least with Sun Wukong, you could ban out the polymorph. You can't anymore. So you're going to find that people will pick Armanz, Sun Wukong, Ultimate Death Knight, and put 2 support with it, and make Sun Wukong a full damage dealer. But I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments below. I'm trying not to be super negative, because I don't want to be. I want to be positive, but I'm really concerned about how this can ever make like future game content interesting, because if every time I face a wave, all I have to do is put greatest hits against it and just turn me to control it to death, where do we go from here? Like, obviously, with new boss content, it's not very good because you can't turn me to control bosses mostly. But, so yeah, I don't really know where we take it from here. We'll have to see how it develops. Perhaps they have new things in the pipeline that means this guy is not so broken. But then you always end up in a situation of, if you miss this fusion and the new content is built around making sure that this fusion isn't overpowered, then how do you beat it? This is the problem we have with Amius. They've made maximum HP so powerful with people like Acrizia and Newt that they've had to cap the max HP on Amius in Centranos to 5%, because if there's ever a situation where Newt is available, you can just one-shot it with 2 Newts. And this is the issue. So they've kind of like, they've lost control of the champion balance, and therefore that impacts what they can do in game content, because to make it difficult, you have to think about the one champion that one-shots it. And this is going to be the similar situation here. If they have wave-based content in the future, they're going to have to think about how this just is a hard counter. That wave doesn't do anything. Now, maybe they don't care. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm curious to see what your thoughts are about this champion. Maybe I'm just looking at it very much from a microscopic arena lens at the moment, because I've been doing a lot more arena since I've had White King Narcissus. I'm really concerned about the health of arena after this. How many more players are just going to give up with arena? Because you're already seeing it with live arena. They're trying to force more engagement with live arena by giving you more area bonuses, because people are not playing live arena because the content is stale. It's the same team every single fight. It is Ultimate Death Knight, Siphi, Rotus, Crixia, and then some of the mythicals if you've got it. It is the same team every single time. There is no difference. Every fight I go into, I know exactly what the enemy is going to pick. I know exactly what I'm going to pick. And it's boring after a while, because it's a 2-minute tax for the Ultimate Death Knight. They're trying to force you back into live arena. This is the type of champion that forces more of them away from live arena, because it's just, you can't play the game. You don't get a turn, and that's not fun. There's no counter to this, really. It's like, ban him or kill him first. That's the only counter. And if you put him in Stone Skin, fast Stone Skin, how do you even kill him? You can't, because he's in Stone Skin. So it's going to be, I mean, some people said the speed meta is going to come back. I think it's going to push people more towards Stone Skin. I really do. And it's going to make Hydra Clash more important, which everyone doesn't enjoy. It's a very bad direction, I think. I think when you make fusion champions, they should be good for progression, but they shouldn't necessarily be like super overpowered that they just destroy aspects of the game. That's why I think Newt was a great fusion, but really bad for the game balance, because it kind of made a lot of boss content trivial, especially when you got two of them. Someone like Emic, though, was very good, because he wasn't overpowered anywhere, but he enabled clan boss progression. He enables Hydra boss progression. He could go into your arena team and do a job, but he's not overpowered. You're not like thinking he's going to break the game. So I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. These are my sort of unfiltered thoughts. Maybe I've got more negative as I've reread the champion skill design. We'll have to see what goes on. But, you know, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.